month and things are gradually picking up in the art scene. Creatives are experimenting with different techniques, no matter the side of the divide. Like this artist, who shows his love for architecture and even infuses poetry in his art. Plus, the works of art sent in by you is always a sight for sore eyes. And more on this week's episode of ArtHouse. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Melinda Akinlami. Let's show you the wordsmith for this week, and we'll be right back.
Our spoken word today is titled My Nigeria by Tola the Poet, accompanied by a picture drawn by a child who is a little less than 10 years. You may not be the country where our minds give the best of laughters, or where our cheeks cuddle up in a moment of pleasure. Your name crams our ears and our hearts shrink out of ingested toxics, the sucking of the ferment from our kwashiorkor gullet, feasting on the rims of your slim-fitted configuration. My country, my home. Your heads are so broad that the savannas taste of its covetousness. Your name travels beyond the galaxies, bringing back the filth from all it tours. But you are still my country, my home. I am filled with your pride and beguiled by your achievement. You taught me to strive and keep the ball rolling, either by crook or by truth, to fight as a furious lion, not minding the carcass or the spoils. You said, Tola, your life just got to be balanced. Such a legend you are, my Nigeria.
His conceptual works of art reveal an interest in words, architecture, and urban space, with a focus on the human form. Although he's known for his work in photography and digital collage, he has broadened his horizon by experimenting with other things displayed at this new modern and contemporary art gallery in Lagos.
It's the first exhibition at the Co Gallery, Lagos, and the artist who has the honor of gracing this new space is bringing his latest body of work using the ocean as a metaphor to interrogate emotions of introspection, identity, and regret.
With this work, I'm trying to use the sea as a metaphor to talk about a range of emotions that we feel. You know, you can use the sea as a sort of mirror that reflects the emotions we feed to it. So in that sense, we are feeding some sort of emotion to this idea of a mirror, which is the sea, and it feeds it back to us as well.
We had him before as he was in our ArtHouse residency program, one of our first ones that we ever did. And we did a foundation show of his, and we loved his work. So when we decided to establish Co, the new art space, we wanted to start with his solo first.
So, contemporary artist Kadara Enyasi brings painting, sculpture, photography, collage, and audio installation to this space with his show titled, Is It Not Enough for the Sea to Be Beautiful?
As you can see from all the works around you, there are a lot of blue hues. There's vast expanses where he's trying to project the sea. There are a lot of works that he sort of was influenced. He went to Japan last year and he bought the pigment from there, the blue pigment, which really depicts the color of the ocean, the blueness of the ocean. And all these works have something in common, which is the ocean.
A conversation inspired by a poem written by Chinua Achebe, Afternoon Raid, which is what the exhibition is premised on. Coincidentally, this artist is also a lover of words and shows that part of him for the audience to see.
My inspiration is pretty much gotten from every and anywhere. I read a lot. I listen to all sorts of music, from Fela to 60s rock to psychedelic stuff to Jimi Hendrix, down to the Stones, down to the Funkies. So yeah, I try to listen to things with value. I read books, fiction, non-fiction, both Nigerian and foreign authors. I tend to travel a lot, especially when it's on people's money. So I've applied to a couple of residencies which I've gotten into. I've done a couple of presentations within and outside Nigeria, within and outside Africa, which has given me exposure to like lots of things. So that gives me my inspiration: looking, seeing, reading, listening.
The artist lights up the venue with experimental works. They are color-filled paintings, forming abstract monotone canvases that reflect a meditative study of color as the viewer takes a rare angle of the ocean, which means peace and tranquility.
Well, I think the great part about Kadara is that he's so versatile. He is a photographer, and the last time we had the show, he did black and whites, and this time it's a completely different format. And he's doing oils on canvas, he's doing paperworks, he's done sculptures, and he's done works on cement, as you can see behind over there. So it's quite amazing, the body of works, and we were worried that possibly it might be too new, it might be just too different to what people have seen here, but we've had great response to it, and we seem to have sold many of them already on the first day. So we are very excited about this show.
Art pieces are generally unique, being that they cannot be reproduced in total composition, if I can use that word, being that each piece has a different feel from the other, each piece has a different expression from the other. Even if you're working with like similar mediums, it doesn't necessarily give you the same feeling from the other work. So like each work is unique in its own sense, in terms of expression, in terms of meaning, in terms of composition.
I've known Kadara for almost 5 years now, and for the most part he was a commercial photographer. And now he's experimenting to, painting a bit of like, building and sculpture. And the point really is to kind of, take a look on nature beyond just the beauty.
The work behind me is titled Olokun /Infinite Solitude. In its nature, it's a bit abstract, but I've taken cues from IFA divination practices to achieve the work. In a previous exhibition I did, I had 6 of these similar type sculptures, which represented 6 different Yoruba orishas. And just to reference Fela, I played this sort of underground spiritual game to achieve that, being that I used some sort of mathematical formulae to come across how many dots are in a row, how many dots are in a column, and what the intersection of each row and each column can mean. And in that, I represented these orishas based on the figurative aspect, how the final image looks like. But with this particular work, I'm trying to attack more of the aesthetic value for it.
To reveal leading artists from the modern period and celebrate emerging and established contemporary artists across Africa and the diaspora is what this space intends to achieve.
I love the structure and the fact that he was able to infuse a lot of other elements in his art. But not everyone can hold an exhibition. That's where our online platform comes in. So remember, you can always upload your creations, but be sure to put the necessary information beside it. And by that, I mean your name, the title of the piece, and the media you're working on. And if you're doing a video, ensure it's done with landscape format. Now let's take a moment on the program. When we return, we have more artifacts for you to feast your eyes on. Stay with us. artists are giving us some independence fever with the works of art they sent in this time around. Let's start with Alade, the Joyful Drummer. It's done with mixed acrylic on canvas by this artist called Adekunle Mayowa. Then Uzo Asebu says he will sing with this sculptural piece. Joyful Way is an acrylic on canvas work by Justin Laye. Happiness is this master art color pencil on smooth card pelican work done by David Emmanuel. An epitome of beauty is how Damola Adeyemo sees the country with this acrylic on canvas work. Then Why Nigeria is an oil paint work. The Land is Green is an oil painting work done by MB Arts. Mind Over Matter is Yomi's acrylic on print work. Then Babatunde says we ought to leave fear behind and move on carrying the light of God to lead us in the right path or in the right direction. That's how he describes his work called Pathfinder. It's done with acrylic on canvas. Then another piece that talks about leaving our worries behind us and bracing for a brand new day is this acrylic on canvas work called Anxiety. It's done by Daniel Ajayi. Those are the works of art you sent in this week. We do appreciate you for sending them in as always.
In the mood of celebrating Nigeria's 60th anniversary, and for those who need a quick history lesson on Nigeria's leadership getting to this period, this pictorial exhibition in the nation's capital, Abuja, provides that. These pictures represent the leadership journey of Nigeria, which is still ongoing. Put a name to the faces and know what they stood for. But the ultimate lesson is to sit down and write. That's all. That story, as all good stories, planted a seed in my soul and never left me.
We show you two of our regulars when it comes to online works. One is a hyper-realistic artist, Then the other is a mixed media artist, and they talk us through their work process.
My name is Emmanuel Wankwo. I'm a hyper-realistic artist from Abia State and also a student of Federal Polytechnic Nekede, Owerri. Actually, I picked up my pencil last year, February. Since then, I've been telling my story. Hyperrealism is a genre of drawing resembling a high-resolution photograph, and it is considered an advancement of photorealism by the method used to create the resulting drawing, which requires a lot of patience and endurance to be able to create a good hyper-realistic drawing. This is my drawing of Chadwick Boseman, a Black American actor who recently passed on and well known for his major role in Black Panther. This particular drawing took me close to a week to complete. I actually draw up to 5 to 6 hours a day. To be able to create a hyper-realistic drawing as an artist, it requires patience and endurance. Also, discipline and hard work. You need to work hard. Whenever I pick up my pencil to draw, to make a hyper-realistic drawing, I feel connected with my materials, with my pencil, creating the skin pores, the details on the face, the skin texture. I feel so connected with my materials and also the muse.
Every portrait has its own uniqueness. So the painting was made for an old couple. So I needed to give it strong colors. That colors are powerful. Normally I use acrylic on board. The way I do my priming is I use this kind of waste materials from wood. I use it to make texture on the board. So this time I'm using acrylic on board. I'm just trying to work more on board recently. So after applying the texture, I prime it with white paint. We call it acrylic emulsion. So that's what I use with gum. Though it's not a common base that everybody uses, that most artists use. Most people use brown, they use black base, but over time that's what has been working for me and I'm good with it. So I use white emulsion, acrylic emulsion with gum to do the priming. So when the priming is fully dry, I sketch out the picture on the board. So as a portrait maker, I work with every detail. On the person's face, and this can take a whole lot of days to achieve, because people really want to see when you make a portrait, people want to see themselves in it. They don't just want you to draw anything. Of course, it's not an imaginative painting or drawing. It's a portraiture, so we tend to make it more realistic and even hyper-realistic. So I try and trace out every detail I see in the picture. So when the sketch is right, the painting will always be right. That's for sure. When your sketch or your drawing is right, the painting will also be right. So after drawing the picture, I embarked on painting. I try to trace and get where the light is coming from. The light can come from any angle, When we want to take pictures, we always have, like maybe in the studio, where the light is directed from. So I try and check it so I can know the dark areas and the lighter areas. So this brings out more beauty to the painting. So I check for my light, check the person's real skin color. So that's what I work with majorly. I first of all get the person's skin color, then I now work with the light, the dark, and all. So when I'm satisfied with the painting, I frame it and I ship it down to the clients.
Now let's hear from you and see more of the real-life stories that have inspired you to create.
On the feedback segment, we asked the question, how has your art practice changed over time? And we got the following answers. And we start out with Gilbert Gabriel, who says, when I think about my past, present, and future in the art race, I know I have no excuse but to forge ahead and aim for the best, because I have so much energy in me to unleash. My approach is win, win, win. Correct Art says, I have faced discouragement, failure, disappointment in so many ways. I'm an artist from childhood. I have this strong feeling that one day I will become a great renowned artist. Interesting. That's a good approach to take. Ikechuku Moke says, my true color is to keep trying even when failure is evident. In failure, lessons will be learned to forge ahead. Clement Agolo says, what inspires me is fear. This has been the starting point for me to be true to myself by accepting my true nature. Next week on ArtHouse, a group show organized by the African Art Foundation which touches on the unconventional as this performance act is featured.
Sort of a group of young, talented artists that are giving their own voices around the subject's restitution debate.
See that and more on ArtHouse next week. Your ArtHouse experience doesn't have to end when the show's not on television. Interact with us on any of our social media platforms. See any edition of ArtHouse on Channels TV's YouTube page. Send your works of art to ArtHouse on Channels Television by joining the group on Facebook. We are everywhere.
Before we go, we have another question for you. With this new norm the world is facing at the moment, as the COVID-19 pandemic, how has your art practice, whether it's performing or visual art, changed over time? Tell us on any of our social media platforms. I'm Melinda Akinlami. Remember, you can see this or any edition of ArtHouse on our YouTube page. And I'm telling you to stay safe and keep being creative.